Here's what you need to know about Syracuse and Colgate.
You are Locked On Syracuse, your daily podcast on the Syracuse Orange. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, everyone, and welcome into Locked On Syracuse. I'm Jackson Holzer, and thank you for making us your first listen of every single day here on the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day, and we are free and available wherever you get your podcasts. And on today's mini podcast, we are previewing Syracuse basketball's upcoming matchup against Colgate, which is taking place tomorrow night at 7 p.m. Eastern inside the Dome. Syracuse basketball is 1-0 after a narrow victory over Lemoyne exactly 1 week ago today. Colgate, on the other hand, they've played 2 games and they are 1-1. They blew out SUNY Canton last Tuesday. It was a dominant victory for them, but then it was in reverse. Basically on Saturday, they got blown out at Drexel. So Colgate is looking for a little bit of a bounce back game against Syracuse tomorrow night. And here is what you need to know about Syracuse and Colgate tomorrow night. Let's start off with a little bit of a history lesson. We'll do recent history between Syracuse and Colgate because these teams basically play every year. And for the most part, Syracuse has dominated the season series against Colgate. But that has changed in the past 3 seasons. In 2021, Colgate went inside the Dome and put up 100 points. That's right, 100. It was an annihilation inside the Dome. And guys, we're talking college basketball here, not the NBA. In the NBA, putting up 100 points is like putting up 60 in college basketball. 100 points is effortless nowadays in the NBA. In college basketball, 100 points is a lot. You do not see it very often. They beat Syracuse that night for the first time since 1962. And for those that really are history majors and just love overall history of humankind, well, that was 7 years before man first landed on the moon. So take that in. That was in 2021. In 2022, it got a little better for Syracuse. They didn't let up 100 points inside the Dome, but they still lost 80-68. Colgate once again shot the lights out in that one. In 2023, Syracuse basketball finally got off the schneid. They finally beat Colgate again, but it took a 24-point second half comeback. You remember that game last season? Syracuse was 2-0, and we're all like, all right, the big game here, the first early test for Syracuse is how are they going to do against Colgate? They fall behind by 24 points in the second half, and we're thinking, here we go again. You can change the coach. You can kind of change the players. It's the same result against Colgate, but the Orange found a way to come back from 24 points down, and they beat them 79-75 on that night. Colgate is actually a pretty good team. Like, as much as Syracuse has historically owned them, Colgate's pretty good. They have made the NCAA tournament in 5 of the past 6 seasons. That's right. They are consistently the best team in the Patriot League. They're one of those teams that every year their season is basically in March, right? The regular season essentially doesn't really matter because it doesn't matter how good they are in the regular season. If they don't win the Patriot League, they will not get a bid into the NCAA tournament, right? They have to win their conference to get in. And in 5 of the past 6 seasons, that's what they've done. That is what they have done. They are the premier team in the Patriot League. And yeah, we're going to talk about soon how their roster has changed and how it's not necessarily the same, but they were still picked to finish first in the Patriot League this season in the Patriot League media poll. So they are the class of the Patriot League. This is not a team that Syracuse should take lightly, and obviously in recent history, evidently they can't. This is a pretty good Colgate team. We'd kill for Syracuse to make the tournament in 5 of the past 6 seasons right now, right? But as I said a little bit, this is not the same Colgate team in years past. I mentioned how they already lost a game this season. They lost on Saturday at Drexel. It was not a good performance by Colgate. Their 3 leading scorers from last year are all gone. All of them. So you think Syracuse loses players, everyone loses players. Colgate got hit really hard this offseason. Perhaps the biggest one for them, Braeden Smith, a point guard. He was Patriot League Player of the Year last season. he transferred to Gonzaga. So evidently, he's a pretty good player. You got to be pretty good to play at Gonzaga. Just saying. Keegan Records, a 6'10 forward, he graduated. And Ryan Moffatt, a 6'6 guard, he graduated as well. All three of those players not only were leading scorers for Colgate last season, they were all Patriot League at some point in time at Colgate. All of them. So 3 all Patriot League players, 3 all conference players from Colgate last season are all gone, including the Patriot League Player of the Year, Braeden Smith. So historically, Syracuse owns Colgate, but in recent history, that is not necessarily the case. Colgate isn't exactly the same team. So there is a brief little history lesson about Syracuse and Colgate overall. But coming up, we're going to talk about this game specifically tomorrow night and what Syracuse needs to contain and how they can win this game. Get ready to tackle the NFL action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook, because right now new customers can bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if you win. The FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place live bets on the NFL all in one place. So when you get a hunch in the middle of a game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. Let's talk Syracuse football for a second. They are a 7.5-point underdog at Cal on Saturday with a plus 210 money line. You think Syracuse can cover, or better yet, win outright? Think they can pull off that upset? Well, you can get started on FanDuel. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. You'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. That's FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch and make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. Basketball season has arrived, whether it's the NBA or college, like going to Syracuse games. Basketball games are always exciting, and the way I get tickets for games is by using Gametime. Gametime has a new feature called Gametime Picks that makes getting tickets for your favorite live events even easier. Gametime Picks filters out the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats, so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. And my favorite feature is the curated deals. Curation makes it easier to save more on sports, concerts, comedy, theater, etc. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account, redeem code LOCKEDONCollege, LOCKEDONCOLLEGE for $20 off. Download Gametime today. What time is it? Gametime. Now that we've established a bit of a history lesson between Syracuse and Colgate, and we talked about some of Colgate's biggest losses from the offseason, let's talk about what Colgate does have and why they're still a formidable foe that Syracuse certainly has to take seriously, and what the Orange need to do to win this game tomorrow night. Once again, Syracuse hosting Colgate tomorrow night inside the Dome at 7 p.m. Eastern. Colgate does have one critical returning piece from last season, and he's having a breakout year. That is 6'11", fifth-year senior center Jeff Woodward. Woodward this season, he is averaging 15.5 points, 7 rebounds, and 4.5 assists per game. I know it's only been 2 games, but those are very, very impressive numbers in 2 games. Nearly 16 points a game, right? 7 rebounds, basically 5 assists. Those are pretty good numbers, right? He's very, very efficient from the floor, too. Not someone you're going to have to worry about shooting the ball from deep, but he's got a high field goal percentage inside the paint. Now, he's always been pretty efficient. If you go look up his career numbers, always an efficient player. But one main reason I think for this breakout is because he's got more opportunities. He's got more of them. This season, I know it's only been 2 games, but he's shooting nearly 10 attempts per game. Nearly 10 a game. That's not a crazy number, but his previous career high is around 5 attempts per game. So it's basically double the amount of attempts, hence basically double the production this season compared to his career totals. He's, I think, a career 7-point scorer. But this year, they lose a lot of their scoring production from last year. He needs to take a step up. And so far through 2 games, Jeff Woodward has done exactly that. What does this mean for Syracuse? Well, our front court is going to be tested defensively in this one. Eddie Lampkin and Donnie Freeman, starting power forward, starting center. They're not exactly known as the greatest defenders. Well, they're going to have to bring their lunch pail to work tomorrow night. they're going to have to figure it out. That's the deal. You're going to have to find a way to slow him down. You're going to have to also box him out on the glass. This is a different type of challenge because when they played Lemoyne, they dominated the boards. To their credit, Syracuse dominated them. Part of that is because Lemoyne, I think their tallest player on their roster is like 6'9". They really didn't have a lot of size. Well, Colgate has some size in Jeff Woodward, a very, very good big man for Colgate. So, Eddie Lampkin, Donnie Freeman, Jair Davis, you want to loop him in there as well, although he's 6'7". That's a mismatch. You're going to have to bring your lunch pail to work against Jeff Woodward. The other thing about Colgate, and I'm sure fans might be aware of this, Colgate, when they come to the Dome the last 3 seasons, they have shot the lights out. They love to shoot the 3 ball. They are very good at it. So, for Syracuse to win this game, they got to find a way to contain Colgate's shooting. Colgate has not actually shot the ball well in the first 2 games of the season. They actually haven't, which means they're bound at some point to get hot. The reason why I say this, that they're bound to get hot at some point, is because I did some digging on a lot of Colgate's leading scorers. Okay, I did some digging on it. Jeff Woodward, once again, he's the leading scorer for Colgate right now, but he's not someone you have to worry about shooting a 3. I don't think he's ever made a 3 in his college career, which of course means he's going to make like 3 of them tomorrow night. But you get the point. Let's just assume that that holds true. He doesn't make a 3 because he's not going to attempt a 3. Don't worry about Jeff Woodward shooting the 3 ball. Well, after him, the next 6 leading scorers on Colgate, that's right, the next 6 of them, all shoot at least 34% from deep in their careers. All of them. At least 34%. 34% isn't exactly high, but when all of them are shooting at least 34% or above, they're all really good shooters. A lot of them are in the mid-30s. A couple of them, I believe, are in the 40s in their career. They can shoot, so you can't give them open space. It's an interesting matchup because Syracuse's main problem defensively against Lemoyne was keeping guys in front of them. It wasn't Lemoyne's crazy ball movement. It wasn't that. It was the fact that they kept getting beat off the dribble. That was the problem with Syracuse's defense against Lemoyne. Against Colgate, it's kind of the opposite. They got a big man who's very skilled down low that Syracuse is going to have to contain, and they can shoot well. They move the ball very well. So it's about not giving them space. That's the key for Syracuse in this one. As far as a prediction, because you made it this far into the mini podcast, thank you all so much for making it this far. Here's a prediction for you all. I'm not going to lie to you, but I give my honest thoughts. On this podcast, I give you the truth about how I feel. I don't feel great about this game for Syracuse, and I think it's mainly because I didn't love how they played last week against Lemoyne. I didn't love it. I'm slightly concerned about Syracuse. I did a poll Friday last week talking about it. One reason to be pessimistic, one reason to be optimistic. So I don't feel great, but I'll go against maybe my better judgment, and I'll say that Syracuse does win this game. I'll pick Syracuse to win a high-scoring one. I hope it doesn't require a 24-point comeback because you don't usually come back from 24 points. But I'll take Syracuse to win this game 88-84. Leave your score prediction in the comments section below. Is Syracuse going to beat Colgate in back-to-back seasons? Or is Colgate once again going to rip our hearts out very early on in the season? Leave a comment in the comment section below. Your thoughts on that. As far as what is coming up on the podcast in the future, well, this is a mini podcast. But tomorrow, there will be a full podcast. Not during the usual time, though. It'll be a post-game reaction show to Syracuse and Colgate. So we'll have a full podcast after that one, hopefully celebrating a Syracuse win. Wednesday, I was considering taking off, but honestly, I was looking at the schedule of what I'm planning to do, and I realized I don't know where I'm going to be able to preview Syracuse and Cal, which is on Saturday. We're talking about football here. So Wednesday, up in the air, but there might be a full podcast on Wednesday talking about Syracuse football versus Cal, just previewing that matchup, full 30-minute podcast on that. Thursday, we'll get Poll Friday. I'll release that question actually about pretty soon after this podcast will release at 6 p.m. Eastern, right? So, but I'm recording this in the morning, so it'll release sometime soon at the time of this recording. How about that? A little behind the scenes. So Thursday will be Poll Friday as well as ACC Squad. Don't worry, I'll be on for the full episode of the Squad this week. On Friday, Kai and Anthony's announcement. We'll talk about it afterwards. And then Saturday, we got a doubleheader. Syracuse basketball playing Youngstown State and also Syracuse football playing Cal. So we'll have back-to-back post-game reaction shows on Saturday. It's going to be a busy weekend here on Locked On Syracuse. You know what that means. You got to like this video first. And then, in order to not miss anything, please hit that subscribe button. Turn on those notifications so you know right away when I am dropping the next podcast. And folks, thank you all so much for watching. Thank you all so much for listening. And everyone, take care.